Open All Hours was once a treasured gem of British comedy, bringing warm laughter and unforgettable memories of Arkwright's little corner shop during the 1970s and 1980s. But behind the spotlight, many talented actors from the series have left us, some through heartbreaking tragedies, addiction, sudden accidents, and painful illnesses. Today, let's look back at the journeys of these stars and honor the legacies they left behind. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive in. Ronnie Barker as Albert Arkwright. Ronald William George Barker was born on September 25, 1929, in Bedford, England. When he was 47 years old, in 1976, he brought laughter to millions as Arkwright, the penny-pinching, scheming, stammering shopkeeper in the classic sitcom Open All Hours. That role, alongside his unforgettable Norman Stanley Fletcher in Porridge and the sketches of the two Ronnies, firmly etched Barker's name into the hearts of fans. But behind the stage lights, Barker's life was not without sorrow and strain. His marriage to Joy Tubb, his wife of nearly 50 years, though strong, faced its share of challenges. The pressures of his packed work schedule and constant touring often kept him away from his family. Joy once admitted there were times she felt lonely in their home, as Barker gave so much of himself to comedy and the public. Yet through love and rare patience, they kept their bond strong and raised 3 children together, despite the unexpected hardships that life brought. Perhaps the greatest tragedy in Barker's life came in 1979 when his dear friend and colleague, almost like a younger brother, Richard Beckinsale, died suddenly of a heart attack at just 31. Barker, a private man by nature, was devastated. He locked himself away for days, unable to work, unable to even smile, while the world outside still looked to him for laughter through Porridge and the two Ronnies. That loss haunted him for years, compounded as other cherished colleagues like Eric Morecambe and Leonard Rossiter also died from heart disease. Barker began to fear that the very profession he loved so much might one day claim him too. His health continued to decline over the years. Although he recovered from a heart bypass operation in 1996, the fear of illness never left him. When doctors advised him in 2005 to have a valve replacement to prolong his life, Barker refused. Perhaps weary from years of health struggles and loss, he chose to face his fate. That July, he made one final appearance with the two Ronnies sketchbook. On October 3, 2005, Ronnie Barker passed away at the age of 76 at a small medical center in Oxfordshire, bringing to a close the life of a British comedy legend. His estimated net worth at the time was around £5 million, a fitting reward for decades of tireless dedication to the stage, television, and beloved scripts that brought joy to so many. Lynda Barron as Nurse Gladys Emanuel. Lillian Ridgway, better known by her stage name Lynda Barron, was born on March 24, 1939, in Urmston, Lancashire. When she was 37 years old in 1976, she shot to fame as Nurse Gladys Emanuel in Open All Hours. Her character, the sharp, decisive nurse who was both the object of Arkwright's affections and his formidable match, became a television icon, remembered fondly for her stern yet loving gaze. Lynda's real life, in contrast to the laughter she inspired on screen, was marked by personal struggles and heartache. In the 1960s, as her career was just taking off, she entered into her first marriage with a talented but restless musician and hairstylist. That love story soon unraveled under the weight of late-night gigs, broken promises, and endless arguments, leaving Lynda disillusioned about romance. But everything changed in 1966 when she met John M. Lee, a gentle, steady man who became her rock both on stage and off. Together, they built a peaceful home and raised 2 children, despite Lynda's demanding schedule of performances, film shoots, and stage appearances. Yet she often wrestled with guilt over the time she spent away from her family. When she starred as Auntie Mabel in Come Outside, she was frequently away from home, traveling from one set to another, carrying with her a deep longing for her children and concern for her husband. John was the quiet strength who kept their family together while Lynda poured her heart into her work. But in 2001, tragedy struck when John passed away, leaving Linda heartbroken and adrift without the partner who had been her greatest support. Loneliness followed Linda in her later years. She devoted herself fully to her craft. After Come Outside, she took on roles in popular shows like EastEnders, Doctor Who, and made a much-celebrated return in Still Open All Hours from 2013 to 2016. But those busy days took a toll. Filming, traveling, memorizing lines, and performing in her 70s was no easy feat. Many colleagues recalled seeing Linda quietly bow her head backstage, exhausted, taking deep breaths before stepping in front of the camera. In her final years, Linda appeared in public less often. Friends said she preferred to stay close to her remaining family, reminiscing about John, and finding comfort in their memories. As her health gradually declined, news of her passing on March 5, 2022, at the age of 82, came as a shock to fans across the country. Linda left behind a legacy of tireless work spanning 6 decades, with an estimated net worth of about £2 million, a testament to her enduring contributions to stage, television, and film. Kathy Staff as Mrs. Blewett. Kathy Staff, born Minnie Higginbottom on July 12, 1928, in Lancashire, England. She 48 years old when she made a strong impression on audiences as Mrs. Blewett in Open All Hours. But it was her role as Nora Batty in Last of the Summer Wine that turned her into a true British television icon. With her wrinkled stockings and trusty broom, Nora Batty became the face of no-nonsense Yorkshire women. Yet behind that tough image, Kathy carried private sorrows few knew about. Her marriage to John Staff lasted nearly 60 years. Outwardly peaceful, their union was not without silent tensions. Acting work kept Kathy constantly busy, and during the 1970s, the relentless filming schedules often took her away from home. She missed many important moments with her 2 daughters. There were nights when Kathy returned to a quiet house and wondered whether the laughter she brought to screens could ever truly make up for what her family had sacrificed for her passion. The greatest heartbreak of Kathy's life came in 1999, when Bill Owen, her beloved co-star and confidant on Last of the Summer Wine, died suddenly. The shock left Kathy devastated. She once said, "I didn't recognize the set anymore. It had lost the warmth of a friend I treasured." She stepped away from the series for a time, leaving Nora Batty absent from those episodes, before finding the strength to return out of love for her craft and her audience. In her later years, Kathy fought bravely against a brain tumor. She passed away on December 13, 2008, at Willowwood Hospice, with John by her side after all they had been through together. She left behind an estimated net worth of around $1 million. Not a vast fortune, but enough to stand as a symbol of a lifetime of hard work and dedication. Clare Kelly as Mrs. Braddock. Clare Kelly was born on February 25, 1922, in Manchester, England. When she was 54 years old, she appeared in Open All Hours as Mrs. Braddock, a blunt yet kind-hearted customer who brought authenticity and charm to Arkwright's shop. Though her scenes were brief, Clare's natural warmth made Mrs. Braddock a small but memorable part of the show. It reflected Clare's signature style, simple, genuine, and deeply human. But while Clare had a gift for bringing ordinary, relatable characters to life, her own story was touched by hardship that few beyond her closest friends ever truly understood. Her marriage had been her anchor during the demanding years when she balanced small but meaningful roles on stage and screen, from Coronation Street to the Cuckoo Waltz. That partnership gave her strength as she worked tirelessly to build a career in an industry that offered few easy breaks. Then, tragedy struck. Clare lost her beloved husband far too soon, a devastating blow that left her world forever changed. Friends and colleagues noticed that while she continued to greet the world with grace, the bright smile they had known seemed quieter, tinged with a sadness that never entirely lifted. The loss left a hollow space in Clare's life that nothing, not even her love for her craft, could completely fill. Still, Clare chose to pour herself into her work. Acting became both her refuge and her therapy. Roles like Connie Wagstaff in The Cuckoo Waltz and Mrs. Rothwell in A Kind of Loving gave her a place to channel her grief and strength. Audiences saw only the professionalism and heart she brought to every performance, but behind the scenes, those roles were a lifeline, helping her find purpose in the midst of sorrow. Yet the more she worked, the more physically and emotionally drained she became, as though the effort to keep going came at a greater cost with each passing year. In her later years, Clare faced her most difficult battle: cancer. Even then, she faced it with quiet dignity and remarkable courage. A colleague once said of her, "Clare never wanted pity, only to be remembered as a complete artist who gave everything she had to her work." And true to that, Clare kept her promise to her craft, continuing to act for as long as her strength allowed. On February 18, 2001, just 1 week shy of her 79th birthday, Clare Kelly passed away. She left behind an estimated net worth of about £500,000, but no number could truly measure the value of the life she lived, the dedication she showed, or the countless hearts she touched through her artistry. Teddy Turner as Gordon Stackpool. Teddy Turner, born Joseph Edward Turner on June 13, 1917, in Yorkshire, England. He was 64 years old when he charmed audiences as Gordon Stackpool in Open All Hours. Though a supporting role, Teddy's natural humor and charm made every appearance a highlight. Off-screen, Teddy was just as beloved, a comedian with a warm smile who could brighten any stage. But behind that smile lay a life touched by deep personal sorrow. From the very earliest days of his career, Teddy's talent shone brightly. His passion for performance was unmistakable, and it carried him across the worlds of radio, television, and theater. Audiences came to know and love him through his many roles, including in All Creatures Great and Small in 1978, Never the Twain in 1981, and, of course, his memorable turn as Chalky Whiteley in Coronation Street. Whatever the role, Teddy brought to it a rare honesty and heart that made his characters feel authentic and deeply human. But behind the laughter he inspired and the smiles he shared with audiences was a life touched by profound sorrow. Teddy endured the greatest heartbreak a parent can face, the loss of his only son in a tragic accident. The pain of that loss changed him. The man who had once been so full of light and joy became quieter, more introspective, retreating into himself when the stage lights dimmed. Friends recalled how Teddy confided that it was only the stage and the sound of an audience's laughter that helped him endure those darkest moments. Performing became more than just a career. It became his way of coping, his way of surviving. In his later years, after decades of tireless work, Teddy's health began to decline. He battled cancer and later emphysema, both of which took a heavy toll on his body and eventually made it difficult for him to continue doing what he loved most. Yet even as his strength faded, his spirit remained admired by colleagues and audiences alike. On August 29, 1992, Teddy Turner passed away in Horsforth, Yorkshire, at the age of 75. His net worth at the time was estimated to be around £200,000, a modest sum that in no way reflected the immeasurable joy and laughter he brought to countless people throughout his remarkable career. His legacy endures, a reminder of a man who gave his heart to his craft and touched so many lives along the way. Elizabeth Dawn as Woman Outside Shop. Elizabeth Dawn, born Sylvia Ann Butterfield on November 8, 1939, in Leeds, England. She was 37 years old when she made a brief appearance as the woman outside the shop in Open All Hours. Though a small part, her kind face and quiet charm made an impression. But it was her role as Vera Duckworth in Coronation Street that made Elizabeth a beloved household name, a character she portrayed for 34 years. Behind the fame, Elizabeth's life was filled with challenges and heartache. She began her artistic journey singing in smoky nightclubs to make a living. The environment, combined with her years of smoking, took a lasting toll on her health. It was a hard road of small roles and constant hustle until Coronation Street finally brought her recognition. Her personal life saw struggles too. Her first marriage to Walter Bradley ended after just 3 years, leaving Elizabeth a single mother. It wasn't until 1965 that she found stability with her second husband, Donald Ibbotson, with whom she raised 3 daughters. Still, balancing a demanding television career and family life often left her weary and conflicted. Perhaps the deepest sorrow came with the death of her longtime co-star and dear friend, Bill Tarmy. His passing in 2012 left Elizabeth heartbroken. Their bond had extended far beyond the screen. She spoke of him often with tearful fondness in her final years. Elizabeth was diagnosed with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, in 2004, a condition that gradually ravaged her health. She left Coronation Street and made a memorable final appearance as Vera's spirit-guiding Jack Duckworth, a farewell that moved the nation. Despite further health setbacks, including a heart attack in 2013, Elizabeth devoted herself to charity work, raising awareness for lung disease until her passing on September 25, 2017, at the age of 77. Her net worth was estimated at $1.5 million, a reflection of over 40 years of hard work on screen and in service to her community. Paty Smart as Mrs. Fielding. Paty Smart, born Patricia Doris Smart on August 14, 1918, in Chingford, England. She was 63 years old when she stepped into the role of Mrs. Fielding in Open All Hours. Though it was just a small part, Patsy brought to it the same gentle charm and quiet authenticity that had defined so many of her performances. She had a way of lighting up even the briefest scenes, leaving audiences with a sense of warmth and familiarity that lingered long after the credits rolled. But beyond the bright lights of television and the applause of loyal viewers, Patsy's life was marked by struggles that were rarely visible to those on the outside. In her younger years, her marriage had been her rock, the sanctuary that helped her weather the unpredictable tides of a demanding career on stage and screen. Together, she and her husband navigated the ups and downs of the acting world, supporting one another through the inevitable highs and lows that come with a life in the arts. When her husband passed away, that foundation crumbled, leaving Patsy to face the later chapters of her life without the partner who had meant so much. The loss left her grieving deeply and often isolated, as she tried to adjust to a world that suddenly felt colder and lonelier. Yet ever the professional, she kept going. Acting became more than just her livelihood. It became her lifeline. In roles like the loyal Miss Roberts in Upstairs, Downstairs between 1971 and 1973, or her appearance in The Pink Panther Strikes Again in 1976, she continued to pour herself into her work, using it as a way to stay connected, to find purpose, and perhaps to fill the quiet hours that might otherwise have been consumed by solitude. On February 6, 1996, Paty Smart passed away at Denville Hall, a residence long known for housing retired actors and performers. Her death was the result of barbiturate poisoning, a tragic end to the life of a woman who had given so much of herself to her craft. Her net worth at the time was estimated at about £200,000, a modest figure for a lifetime of contributions to stage and screen. Janet Davies as Mrs. Blake. Janet Davies was born on September 14, 1927, in Wakefield, England. When she was 55 years old, in 1982, she appeared in Open All Hours as Mrs. Blake, a small but memorable role that perfectly reflected the gentle charm and subtle grace she had already become known for, especially through her beloved portrayal of Mrs. Pike in Dad's Army. Though her time on screen in Open All Hours was brief, Janet's ability to bring warmth and authenticity to her characters left a lasting impression on audiences. Behind the scenes, however, Janet's life was far more complex than the light-hearted roles she played. Her marriage to fellow actor Ian Gardner had once been her greatest source of comfort and strength, a steady foundation during the unpredictable early years of her career. But as time went on, the challenge of balancing demanding acting roles, the responsibilities of motherhood, and the pressure of maintaining a polished public image began to take its toll. Work in productions like The Rivals of Sherlock Holmes in 1971 and Pride and Prejudice in 1980 showcased her talent, but also came with long hours and personal sacrifice, often leaving her emotionally drained. Janet's greatest challenge came later in life when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. The illness placed an enormous strain on both her body and her spirit. Still, Janet's resilience shone through. Determined not to let the disease define her, she continued to work, taking on roles such as in The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin in 1976. For Janet, acting was more than just a career. It was a lifeline. Each time she stepped in front of the camera, she seemed to draw strength from the craft she loved so deeply, using her passion for performance as a way to keep moving forward, even in the face of unimaginable hardship. On September 22, 1986, just 8 days after celebrating her 59th birthday, Janet Davies passed away in Bromley, Kent, after the cancer had spread to her lungs. Though her time was cut far too short, she left behind a legacy of dedication and grace. Her net worth at the time of her passing was estimated at around £150,000, a modest figure that could never truly capture the value of the joy and inspiration she brought to audiences throughout her life. Emmeris James as Eli Bickerdike. Emmeris James was born on September 1, 1928, in Machynlleth, Wales. When he was 53 years old in 1981, he joined Open All Hours as Eli Bickerdike, the fussy customer whose odd demands kept Arkwright and Granville on their toes. Though it was a small part, Emmeris left an impression with his refined delivery and Shakespearean presence that marked his entire career. Emmeris married novelist Ronnie James, whom he met during his university days at the University of Wales. Together they raised 4 children and created a warm home, moving from small flats in London to a home in Warwickshire when Emmeris committed to the Royal Shakespeare Company, RSC. But the intense demands of his career, playing challenging roles like Iago in Othello, 1971, and Malvolio in Twelfth Night, 1984, often pulled him away from family life, leaving him questioning whether he had lived up to the hopes of his loved ones. A deep personal loss came with the sudden death of a close friend and colleague at the RSC, plunging Emmeris into a period of grief. But rather than stepping back, he threw himself even more deeply into his work, taking on roles in theater and on screen in productions like Dragon Slayer, 1981, and The Scarlet and the Black, 1965. Eventually, cancer came as a cruel final act. Even as his health declined, Emmeris stayed committed to his craft, earning admiration for his unwavering dedication. He passed away on February 5, 1989, in Evesham, Worcestershire, after more than 30 years of devoted work. His net worth was estimated at around £200,000. Peter Wallace as Winston. Peter Wallace was born in 1926 in England. When he was 50 years old in 1976, he appeared in Open All Hours as Winston, the good-natured, slightly simple customer who brought gentle humor to the show. His natural, understated acting came from a lifetime on stage, including touring with family troupes and entertaining the troops during the war. Peter married Dorothy M. Johnson in 1951, and their bond lasted nearly 60 years. But even that steadfast partnership couldn't always fill the gaps left by his career's demands. His work in films like Dracula, 1979, and The Man from the Icy River, 1982, often kept him away from home, and he later admitted that the stage had been both his comfort and his greatest source of guilt. He suffered a deep loss with the passing of a dear friend and fellow performer from his early days in Leeds. That grief pushed him to retreat from bigger roles, preferring smaller parts like Winston's, allowing him to stay connected to the art, without the strain of the spotlight. Peter's final years were marked by health struggles. Diabetes led to surgery to remove a toe in early 2008, and complications weakened him further. His once bright spirit was dimmed by age and illness, though he remained a warm, kind presence to those around him. Peter Wallace died on May 23, 2008, in Otley, West Yorkshire, from lung failure. His net worth was estimated at £150,000, a modest sum for a life dedicated to bringing joy to others. The journeys of the Open All Hours stars are proof of their talent, resilience, and dedication, even in the face of private heartbreak. Their laughter and unforgettable moments continue to live on in the hearts of fans. Which actor or memory from the show has stayed with you the most? Share your thoughts below and help us celebrate the lasting legacy of Open All Hours.